Today is the day. Both Bramble and Biscuit are going to the vet. Bramble has an appointment today to have his last set of shots, and we're gonna take little Biscuit along just for a checkup. Oh, she's looking. We're scared if we let her out, then she's gonna try to run loose, so it might be in her best interest to leave her in there. Hey buddy, you ready to get some shots today? Okay, Biscuit. We just found out that you are indeed a female. Yeah, little girl. All right, so Bramble has had his vaccines while Biscuit has been dewormed, and her eye was looked at to determine that her cornea is scratched. We knew that her eye looked a little bit funny, but we didn't know what was wrong with her. So the vet said that she's probably seeing just a dot in front of her eye because of that scratch. It should heal on its own with no problems. And the good news is we can put little Biscuit in with Sylvester and Bramble. We've had her for, there was a little sneeze. We've had her for long enough to determine that there's not going to be any other issues besides her eyes needing to have the antibiotics put in them, which we will continue. And in 3 weeks, we will be back at this same location for Biscuit to get her first set of vaccinations. Okay, so we made it back from the first checkup. See if you can see Biscuit's eye. Well, she's not going to look at you, but I explained earlier that there's a little scratch on her cornea that the vet thinks she'll heal from. But right now she's probably having a little visual disturbance. Ooh. So I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to supervise visit for a while just to make sure, because she's so little. Look how little she is. But I think if I supervise visit for a while, then they'll get used to her. We do have a new little play tunnel here. Come here, Biscuit. Come here. I know, that's normal. They're gonna hiss at you because they don't know you. Hey. Oh, she hissed back. But she's half the size they are, if not less. Come here, baby. The vet said it's okay to put them together. So Bramble just wants to play. Jason told me that when Bramble left to go to the vet, Sylvester was here alone, and he said Sylvester was literally moping around. Just, you could just see the distress on his face because he was alone and his friend was gone. And upon reuniting them, it was like, oh man, where have you been? What's she doing, Bramble? Who's growling?
I think it's her.
I think all will be well. It's just gonna be a process, and it wasn't. You know, it took a couple of days with Bramble and Sylvester to become acquainted with each other.
It was exactly 2 days.
2 days.
2 full days.
And she's running and playing. She's doing more than what Bramble did. Come here, baby. He said, what's in here? Food, water. She said, this is down my food, not y'all's. By the way, did y'all notice my earrings? I picked these up because I'm now the crazy kitty lady, and I just felt appropriate to have some crazy kitty earrings. I'm not gonna wear them around Nugget though. Hey baby! He sounded like a lion. She's not nearly as scared as I thought she would be. She said, let me check out this cat tower over here. My other bathroom doesn't have this. Come here. Biscuit. Oh, Bramble's in his tunnel. Their personalities are so different between Sylvester and Bramble. Sylvester is just like that kid that gets into everything. He's a jumper, a leaper, a troublemaker, and Bramble's just like the good kid, you know, no trouble. Ooh, what's this? Are they both in there?
Mm-hmm.
So, growing up, you may think I had a lot of animals. In reality, we had one dog, and it was a Doberman Pinscher of all types of dog, a big Doberman. His name was Dylan, and he had my family's heart. He was our only dog, so he got all of our attention. Now, as for cats, my dad was highly allergic to cats. So the one cat that we did have, whose name was very unique, Kitty. Kitty had to live outside, and my mom just adored Kitty. I mean, that was her cat, so to speak. But it did live outside. Now, my dad worked as a funeral director, so there were times when he would have to spend the night at the funeral home if there was a need to, and my mom would sneak the kitty into the house, and she didn't think my dad would know. But the next morning when he came home, he would, has that cat been in here? And, you know, of course, she'd have to confess and say yes, but so the only cat we had was Kitty. Well, we lived in the same house until my grandmother passed, which I was probably 12 years old at the time. When my grandmother passed, we moved from our house that we had lived in all my life to her house. Kitty had obviously only lived at one location too. So Kitty's move was just as big as our move was. And Kitty couldn't come inside because my dad had allergies. So when we moved to the new location, the first few days were okay, but then Kitty came up missing. And we just thought that Kitty had tried to go back to the old house. Well, upon coming home one day, my dad saw a deceased kitty in the road, and he scooped the remains up, brought it home, and performed the ultimate burial, which consisted of digging a deep grave, burying Kitty, and putting concrete on top. So, you know, it was an appropriate burial. Well, my mom was heartbroken because she felt that it was her fault that Kitty tried to go back home because we had moved and she didn't have a way to contain Kitty. But my dad felt so bad for her that he went out and bought her a console TV. Now, this was in the 80s. So televisions were, you know, they were fairly expensive. This was a big purchase because the only televisions we had ever had were sitting up on pieces of wood or whatever. But this was a console TV, one in the big wooden cabinet that sat on the floor. And so, you know, that was to help her get over her mourning of Kitty. Well, Didn't take long because my mom heard a meow at the back door. And upon her surprise, Kitty was back. And it wasn't the kitty that Daddy had buried. This was the real kitty. Daddy had buried the wrong cat. Him never having too much contact with Kitty because of his allergies, he just saw a gray cat and buried Kitty. But that was not the real Kitty. So Kitty came back and my mom got a brand new console TV to help her get over her sorrows of losing the wrong kitty. And I thought you guys might find it interesting that when I grew up, I only had that one cat and the one dog. And now here I am with multiple, well, I might have a few dogs, and it seems like I got a few kitties and a few outside cats, but I've never buried the wrong kitty. They're doing good now.
Mm-hmm. They're all getting along playing.
Bramble, did she go behind the shower? That's Bramble's favorite spot. Come here. Oh, there she comes. She's so little. I think all's going to be well. I don't think that I'm going to have to do a lot of supervising and taking her back and forth. I think it may be okay. She seems to be able to hold her own.
Mm-hmm. And they're just playing.
Yeah, they're just playing. I mean, he's growling, but that's typical.
Bramble hadn't growled yet. Just Sylvester.
And I assure you that I will not let her stay in here once she becomes the age to reproduce.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue. So please don't think that I'm going to let that happen. It's under vet supervision, and she's all good right now. Oh, goodness. I think this tunnel was a hit.
Mm-hmm.